There's a very strong magnetic attraction between President Trump's name brand Narcissism and Time magazine. When then-candidate Trump hosted The Washington Post's Mark Fisher and Michael Kranish, he laid out his affinity. "I just discovered this," he said, pointing at the conference table that took up most of the room. He swept his arm over the table, beckoning us to inspect. Every inch of the table's surface was filled with stacks of magazines. "All from the last 4 months," he said, "and on every cover of every magazine, there he was, Donald J. Trump, smiling or waving or scowling or pouting, but always him. Cover of Time, 3 times in 4 months," he said. "No one ever before. It's amazing. There he was on the New York Times Magazine, and on Esquire, and on Rolling Stone, and on and on. The man who was about to be nominated as the Republican candidate for president, his successor, his notoriety emblazoned on magazine after magazine. He was very much impressed." One helpful Twitter user documented the annual narcisso-anxiety complex that overcomes the President of the United States vis-a-vis a magazine cover. Occasion for that compilation was Trump's Friday tweet about apparent discussions with Time magazine for its Person of the Year extravaganza, and where there's a Trump tweet, there's also a refutation waiting to surface on the timeline of some interested party. Here, Time magazine itself, one big Trump partisan jumped in to challenge the magazine. "I call total bulls on Time. Answer the question, did you or did you not call the WH and say it real? Donald Trump POTUS was being considered for Person of the Year and ask for an interview," tweeted Fox News host Sean Hannity. And one observer suggested an angle of inquiry that could flesh out the contours of this spat. By virtue of his position, the President of the United States is quite commonly in the discussion at Time magazine for Person of the Year honors. Sometimes the negotiations between the magazine and the White House become newsworthy, too. In 2002, for instance, Time thought that the partnership between President George W. Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney would make for a compelling presentation. The White House, however, declined to provide access for this brainstorm, apparently not wishing to see the president eclipsed by his strong-willed no. 2 at the time. That move seemed to reflect insecurity and thin-skinnedness in the Oval Office. Colored by today's realities, it looks like an expression of virtue and solemnity.